Hi and welcome back to another Everyday Life of an Aspie series, joined by Dee today from STPD ME. We're going to be talking about autism and STPD, of the differences and similarities between the two, so that you gain a better understanding between our two conditions.
As a keynote, our conditions are different but similar in some ways, and I want you all to get to know Dee today and learn more about her condition and her as a person.
I would like to take the time to thank her for joining me today on this call. The link of her channel will be listed below, along with any other contact details that you wish to reach her by. Saying this, go check her out, and if you support her by subscribing to her or just commenting on this video below of mine or hers when it's done up and
we'll also
ready.
add the link to the podcast that she and I are sharing today that she did on her channel onto my channel, versus also the links to the description of all the topics that were discussed based on my podcast with her onto this page of mine as well.
So, as a disclaimer, I'm no medical doctor, I'm just your normal Duro blogs as well, so if you see any warning signs and symptoms in regards to any of the videos that I have clearly discussed in the past or present, do seek professional help for yourself or your loved one, or seek an opinion for yourself or your loved one, because I don't forever condone self-harm.
Before I continue on with this podcast, just as a heads up for any audiences that are listening right now, that I am currently going to be using some terminology that will cause some confusion or some form of disruption, but in saying this, the key examples that you may hear is low spectrum disorder versus the high spectrum disorder. So please just bear in mind on this that it's just my opinion and thoughts, and respect each other's opinions in the comment section below. When you hear this, just feel free to open the discussion board if need be while we're doing this together. Enough of me now. Now it's time to introduce Dee in her section.
Hi, my name is Dee, and I am very happy to be in this collab with Aspie Answers. Well, since we are going to put this video on both of our channels, I am going to briefly introduce you to my condition, which is STPD. Since my disorder is in some way very similar to autism spectrum, I wanted to make a collaboration with a Asperger person, since Aspie politely agreed.
Aims and goals for your channel and podcast today?
To be a part of my collab. And I wanted to compare some of our symptoms, since many are similar or many are misinterpreted between one and another. Some people are Aspergers and are found schizotypal and other way around, and I wanted to make a video that would explain from the first person, as people who actually experience that. I wanted to compare some of symptoms which are similar, some are different, and I wanted to show you firsthand how to compare both. The
What is
STPD or
STPD?
Schizotypal personality disorder is a personality disorder in the schizophrenia spectrum.
What are the different types and categories of the personality disorders that we're discussing? What are the different types of personality disorders out there besides your STPD?
What are other disorders?
Yeah.
There are many, and they are separated into something called clusters.
Yep.
There's cluster A, B, and C. So there are many personality disorders, and they are divided into clusters. And my schizotypal personality disorders goes into cluster A, which are personality disorders that include paranoid thoughts. So
Okay.
basically, my personality disorder is very similar to not only autism but also schizophrenia. Some doctors say that schizotypal is a, delicate version of schizophrenia.
What's the differences between them both in comparison?
They are very different, actually. I made a video on it, but they share some traits, let's say. For example, I might be paranoid, I might have some psychotic episodes, but other than that, it is very
The
different.
causes and triggers for your condition is for your condition. So what triggers your, the episodes of your hearsay, manic episodes, or whatever it was you just mentioned earlier?
The causes, well, I was born with it. As for the triggers, there are no triggers. This is my part of personality, and it works daily. So there is no something to trigger the symptoms. I just live with it. I am just a bit. I'm a bit different person as a whole, and it is not an illness that is triggered by something. I am just like this all the time. So in this case, similar to autism spectrum.
Right, we went up to the signs and symptoms since you said you missed out one. So if you want to read out what you've got there on your signs and symptoms of your disorder of PTSD, if you can, please.
Okay, so there are some, and the most visual ones are my logic of thoughts, logic of thinking and speaking is very different from a healthy person. In my mind, something make perfect sense, and when I'm trying to vocalize it and tell it to someone, they are looking at me like at some crazy person not understanding a thing. I am paranoid, not always, but it happens. I'm very anxious of social situations. Right. There might be some psychotic episodes which also connects to paranoia, but the most visual one is the way we act in the social situations, the way we perceive the world, and we try to communicate with others, and we have, for example, different interests than the others. Some call it peculiar or eccentric, and basically we are the person you would call weird in the crowd, because they dress differently, they look, for example, they may dye their hair in some bright colors or wear 2 different socks at a time because they don't care. They might try to talk with you about some totally random subjects. For example, I don't know, African pygmy hedgehogs, when you are asking them for something else. And well, it is very visual for me when I'm in the crowd and people are talking about politics, they are talking about daily life, they are laughing, they are enjoying themselves, and for me, I am not able to either find their topics interesting, I have different ones I'm interested in, and when I try to tell them something I want to talk about, I have problems to vocalize my thoughts in the way that they might understand me, because, well, I might use some unusual wording or some references that made sense in my head, and for them it is just random connection between 2 subjects and they don't understand me, something like this.
Would the similarity be based on STPD and autism?
Yeah.
Would you like to explain a bit further onto that?
Well, comparing autism and STPD, they are often confused even in diagnosis or daily. When you look at a STPD person, an autistic person, you might see 2 nearly similar personalities and way of behavior. For what I know, we both are socially awkward and socially anxious, and that topic is very similar in both ways, and I wanted to discuss with you to see the similarities and some differences, to explain to my audience and to myself what is different, what is similar, and how to distinguish the both.
What are the struggles you have with STPD, and how do you like overcome these struggles on a day-to-day basis?
For example, when I'm having the paranoid episode, I might be very untrusting. When, for example, I have to do something in a group of people and randomly I think they're against me, that might cause some arguments or me being not entirely into the collaboration with them, because I think they think bad of me, they intend to harm me in some way, and they don't understand me why I am acting this way, and this is stronger for me to actually believe that. For example, my social awkwardness in work, in daily life, doing groceries or something, when I talk with strangers and I do some references that no one understands, so I have really big problem with being understood. And social anxiety, because, well, I am aware that I have social problems in social cooperating with people. So I am very anxious of the sole idea of talking with people. So I am either too weird or not saying a word. So that are some struggles that I'm doing daily.
Is there anything you want to change of your STPD? Why not? If so or not?
Well, there's one thing I wouldn't change, changing your question a little, because one thing that is strongly connected to STPD is imagination. And
right,
we have this thing for believing superstitions, believing in so-called unconventional things, right? For example, that we might read thoughts, or basically believing that we have, let's call it, superpowers like Batman or Superman, but in the daily basis. Not that we are flying, but for example, we think that we can shape our luck or some casual things like that, and that connects with our imagination. And well, my imagination, my dreams during the night and creativity is something I wouldn't change ever, even if that would mean that I would be healed if I gave up my imagination. I wouldn't agree on that, because I like it too much, and well, that is definitely one thing I want to keep.
So basically, imagination is one of your favourite things to keep. Is
Yes.
there any others you would like to add to that?
My weird interests, for example, because those make me unusual in the crowd, and when people are interested in daily struggles, or, as I said, politics or musicians or some random TV shows, I am interested in voice acting, in African pygmy hedgehogs, in Second World history, musicals, and some things that the rest of the group is not very interested in and has nothing to say about it. But I think that it makes me unique in some way.
Biggest misconception or myth about...
I'm going to make a video on that. Well, the biggest misconception is that mentally ill people are dangerous just because they are mentally ill, and that is very untrue. Of course, there are some cases when ill person might be dangerous, but putting us in the label dangerous just because we are ill is not fair. So I've been experiencing treating me like a crazy psycho. I don't like those words, but that's how they called me. So we as STPD are a bit different than others, but we are definitely not a threat to anyone. And
Right.
that is very untrue and very unfair, in my opinion, to be put in the one bag with those extreme cases when they are actually dangerous and we are just a bit eccentric, not a threat. And I want to fight
Okay.
with the idea, with those myths that surround the mentally ill. That's why I'm doing my channel, because I'm trying to open some eyes that we are just people, a bit different, but still people.
I'm reading this right. STPD, is that the condition we're looking at?
Yeah, STPD or Schizotypal personality disorder.
Oh god, that's a mouthful.
It is
Right.
a mouthful, really. Hi, my name is Dee, I am Schizotypal, and today I am recording with Aspie. Hello, Aspie.
Hello, folks. How's it going?
Okay, so as I said, my condition is schizotypal personality disorder, and what about you?
I have Aspergers syndrome with the classics of anxiety, social anxiety, and other hosts of mental health conditions diagnosed.
So today we are going to touch very interesting subjects. Basically, we are going to compare autism spectrum illnesses with STPD, since they are often mixed up, and as a person with schizotypal and Aspie with Aspergers, we're going to see some similarities and some differences, and maybe open up a discussion how the both are similar or different and where's the line. So let's try and start. We've prepared some similarities on the list and we're going to discuss them with Aspie on this podcast. So starting, the first similarity is emotional expression often not congruent with context or internet experience. How would you comment on that?
So my experience with my condition, well, if you want to know the full story, even though, as we've discussed earlier, like some of this will be on, hopefully, in the description, but my experience with my condition would have to say sometimes with many people tend to misunderstand me, basically, to how I say my bits and pieces. Sometimes, like, I get a bit anxious around people for the first time when I'm trying and whatnot, and I am aware of my surroundings, and it can, to the point, like when I'm socializing, like I mentioned about something about it can be a bit exhausting if my social energy tanks, purely full, so overwhelm me to a point where a meltdown might occur. So therefore, when that meltdown will occur, I might have to withdraw myself from the situation. Classic one maybe for me is when it stems off my meltdown would be like if I'm invited to a party with loud noises and chitter-chatter going on in the background, and then I'll end up having to either decide, do I want to just continue on besides it almost nearly empty of my social energy tank, or do I just want to mask it and suppress those feelings of that meltdown, hearsay, and just continue on, even if people may, as you're saying on your previous one, look at me strangely thinking, what is she doing, hearsay. So it's all about trying to like blend in to the situation I'm in, that example of that party. And that in saying this, that I have once or twice had anxiety attack, hearsay, when it came down to it, when I socialise in the largest pair of groups, like it, aware of the triggers and whatnot, of what causes me to just freak out and just my own way, hearsay, even if people may look at me strangely.
So where it comes to me, I can relate to many things you already said. And well, the emotional expression, my face is not working automatically. So, like, for example, healthy person smiles because they feel happy. No, that doesn't work that way with me. I might be happy inside, but my face stays blank, and other way around. Sometimes the situation is not fitting to actually be laughing, and I might start laughing because I found something funny. And this really distinguish me from a healthy person, when they are spontaneous in the emotional response and I am more controlling. Do you have anything on that?
Yeah, well, in some ways that can be similar for me as an autistic, but as I want to clearly address before continuing on here, once you meet an autistic, don't assume that we're all the same. We've got all different personality traits, he say, because on the he say.
Yeah.
So there, as I said in a previous piece about it, like there's a high functioning and low functioning of autism, SA, and like they have different range of signs and symptoms, and it's basically, you could say, if you want to put me in that cluster of those two categories, I'm the one that I am physically able, I can communicate, I may have my everyday struggles of still trying to get my words right, but I know what I'm trying to say. It's in my head scripting a few times before it's out 2 years. For it may take me a while to, converse back to you what you're on about of a particular situation. In saying this, once you get me going on maybe a particular topic that I enjoy or love, you say maybe based on health or science, I'll just go on a tangent it sometimes. Then therefore, like, you may have to try to find a way to, stop me in between to get that stopped a bit if you need a bit of input. So I get a bit of a struggle there, say, but I am starting to get a bit better, say, being patient, waiting to know my turn and stuff, even though I find it harder more in the way of communicating to others, say. Like, I've done a piece on talking on phones with autistics, that it's knowing when the other person on the receiving end is finished, do I know continue on to what I need to say, or continue on to that same topic that they just addressed, sort of thing. It's just knowing when to stop, when not to stop, and giving in about the consideration of others into the conversation at hand. It's not like as I'm trying to say to some people that may know me or don't know me, that misunderstands me, it's not as if I'm being selfish. It's just a matter of coming to grips of understanding how we can meet in the middle of our differences, say.
Two similar things. One thing is not understanding how our actions impact the behaviors of others. We may do, you somehow already said something on this. Our actions impact others, and the other way around, that we misinterpret the actions of others towards us. So how do you find that? Do you have problems to actually analyze and know what people meant by doing something, and the other way around, that you might do something, let's say, unexpected or not socially acceptable in the situation, that they might found that it was not fitting to the situation? How do you think on that?
With me, like, in saying that, you could say I've got black and white thinking, pretty much, and in saying this, it's just like sometimes I may take things literally into what people are saying, and not reading between the lines. Sometimes I may be able to read between the lines. It will depend on each given topic, situation, say, when it comes back to communicating to each other. So it's based on understanding, and also, like, to me, if I don't understand something, I'll make sure to ask the person again to clarify, or to try and change the way they were speaking to me at a certain understanding level for me, but not to the sense of, like I have said in one of my videos when I first started my channel, not to talk me down into a little 5-year-old. Understand to a level of communication, say, like 15, 16 onwards, if hearsay sort of thing, is what my clinical specialist was telling me when we were doing my vocabulary test and comprehension and all that. And in saying that, also, we could say, like, in any given situation, based on what I've been through in my life, through trauma from an abusive relationship or what have you, before my one I'm with at the moment, recognizing the signs, hearsay maybe, of what they're saying, if that makes sense. So
Yeah,
therefore,
it does.
basically, yeah, because sometimes, like, I remember, like, I'm not sure, like, if everyone has experienced it, but maybe a majority may have. But when I've been through traumatic experiences, sometimes the word comes to mind is I ruminate onto what happened of that trauma or that past event. Despite my savant skills that I may have of recalling thoughts and information and whatever else it may be on the back of my mind, time dates and whatnot, which sometimes may tick people off, I'll put it politely. But it's just like coming to an understanding and knowing the signs and whatnot, despite of all that rumination, I need to like learn at this struggle of mine to try maybe put a stop to it, even though sometimes it can be difficult, say. And I'm learning that at the moment, just trying to stop the rumination, or as someone puts it, sometimes they may call it assumptions of what may have been said or thought about before it's actually been clearly said to me as the receiver on the other end communicating. It's just a fair judgment call of, okay, I need to take a step back and just, maybe again ask for clarification if I'm misunderstood.
The next two are something very, very relatable for myself. Well, do you act or dress unusual or let's say odd, or do you actually physically dress or do makeup or dye your hair or cut your hair, basically, and on the appearance, do you do anything that society finds inappropriate in a way? And the same goes with acting. Are you saying things that are found inappropriate, or doing things that are inappropriate? Basically, appearance and actions. Is it anything that society thinks it's weird? Because it's very relatable to me, and I was wondering how it works with autism.
In saying this, again, for me as an autistic, like, of appearance-wise and all that, as I said before, just previously, about the term autism and masking versus camouflaging. So therefore, I'm masking maybe my feelings and everything underneath the soul mask of my being, internal being, say. So therefore, I'm camouflaging myself some days, depending on how I feel. Classic example, if I was invited to a party. So in my sense, I'm watching and observing people around me. Sometimes another term I've used is shape-shifting to match fit to that every situation. While I'm observing that particular group of people, how I should act, how I should, speak and whatnot. Is it the right way? Is it not? Even if I am mimicking the same kind of behaviors that they are, as if like I'm trying to fit in and blend in with them, if that makes sense. So it's like kind of a continuation of just, for me, having the sense of fitting in and blending in and feeling accepted by the peers that I'm in, be it in that group party, say, that I'm socializing with at that time, getting to know them and befriending them and whatnot. And in terms of maybe, as you're asking, of the way maybe I dress and stuff, and maybe people looking at me, it's any normal person would. There are some things that I am a bit sensitive on, based on sensitivities that I touch based on my channel, which is the sensitivities to certain smells, noises, certain things that touches my skin. Certain materials will make me itch like crazy, so I'll have to add extra layers, even if it makes me really hot and sweaty, depending on seasons. In terms of maybe my other appearance, be it dyeing my hair or whatnot, some days it depends on how I feel. I might dye my hair just a normal natural color, but not a wacky color out there, say. So I'm just almost like
a neurotypical / sometimes when I'm mimicking that action or behavior that's coming towards me of what they're trying to, address to me.
Actually, I do the same in terms of masking, because if I understood it correctly, it is acting, trying to fit in to the group of people despite our difficulties. Well, I've been, let's say, actress ever since I can remember. I didn't know certain social behaviors that were expected of me, so I just observed people around me and started to mimic them just to be like them, and that worked awkwardly, very awkwardly. So let's change to the matter of speaking. Do you use some metaphorical or over elaborate or stereotype thoughts, or I mean, do you speak in any unusual? Because, well, now that I am speaking with you, I don't spot any unusualities, and I'm wondering if you're over elaborate on something, or sometimes you are too vague, or basically, is there anything in your speech that you would find different than from the healthy person, the way you are speaking?
Go back to just like when I'm, in a crowd thing, socializing, I'll be, observing my surroundings, observing the people, how to think, how to act, and all that. Sometimes, like, even though my parents find it really annoying sometimes that they find that I can put on a quick accent, even though I'm New Zealand European, quickly put myself in a situation that while I'm talking to someone, while I'm, mimicking that kind of talk, that, okay, I may be talking in an American accent, or I may be talking in an Australian accent, a bit off-putting to some, which it's just one common thing that I've noticed with many of the autistics I've been talking to, that some of them do that, not purpose or intentionally. It's just the way our brains are wiring up, saying, okay, is this how we're supposed to be talking similar to them, even though, okay, yes, we're from this country. And in other terms of that, with the forms of my language or my communication of how I, go about things, like, ever since I can recall, I had trouble speaking, putting things into words. I was like, at a time, a mute, suspected that I wouldn't talk at all. And I was struggling with putting words together, and since I had to have like a speech therapist at an early age to structure sentences and all that together, and just understand the language and comprehension behind our communication in the English realm. So I found that a bit difficult on that perspective.
I have two more on the similarities part. They are reticence in social situations and very similar lack of initiation of social contact. And well, I have this problem because I am aware that I have social problems with being understood, with the way I speak. I am very anxious of social situations. I may be willing to start a conversation, but, well, the fear itself is sometimes too strong to me to actually act and speak to someone. And you already answered that in the previous parts, that sometimes you are also very anxious to initialize a social contact. Is it right?
Yes, correct.
So, okay. Thank you very much for the similarities part. We have now some things that may be confused with one or another, and but this is the first part I am already aware of. As I said, social anxiety and social awkwardness might be confused between autism spectrum and schizotypal. I think we both agree that we both have it, but in some different ways.
Yep, that will be about right. I'll agree onto that front. That we do, yeah.
That would be it. Do you have a problem to develop any close relationship because of anxiety, because you don't trust someone? My part is mostly connected to my paranoid thoughts, that I am often very afraid that they intend to say or do something against me. And I think in your case it works on a different background. What would you say?
Again, that will go back to what I was saying based on like what I went through based on my traumatic experience of being abused with a
Yes.
partner. So
Mhm.
it does take a while to build up that trust factor again with a particular someone I'm in a relationship. Say it's taken me a while now to try and trust my current one I'm with that I've been
Mhm.
with for a few amount of years at this point of time. And saying that I I'll actually agree on that front. You're mentioning about paranoia, that you're that kind of thoughts about how people may react towards you, or
Yes.
how you may be reacting towards them versus what to say to them. That can come into the territory for me sometimes as well. I
Mhm.
might have to add here, because like again that will come into maybe paranoia versus the traumatic experience that comes clashing when I'm socializing. And as I've said before, yeah, I am socially aware of where I am in my surroundings. It's just a matter of making sure I'm actually understanding to what they're saying. If not, again, we need to just revisit that conversation, just to have that based on that clarification and understanding between us both on a certain scale.
The next two are very similar. I think this is not something I experience very much, but I have on the list preference for being alone than to be with others, and avoidance of social contacts and activity. Well, on my side, it is not something that I don't want. I am not just knowing how to perform that, how to be close with people. And adding to that paranoia and social anxiety, I am avoiding social situations, sure, but it is not something that I don't want to. I just can't because I am not knowing how. And that's how on my side. How it looks on yours.
Again, with when it comes down to socializing and like physical touch and whatever else, again, that will vary from every autistic.
Mm-hmm.
Say like, as I said before, as an example, like if it gets too rowdy for me and that meltdown comes, since I'm going to be touching base about my experience with my meltdown and how you can deal with parents and whatever, whoever may be, to see that once it comes on board. But to put it brief, like with me, it'd be nice just for someone when I have that meltdown and stuff, and I withdraw myself from that situation versus that social energy tank once it's nearing empty, that when I need to recharge those batteries, even if it's almost like a full on day for me, be it if I was at an office or if I'm just socializing with a group of people uptown, he say that there is a way that they can deal with me in a way of physical contact. Some days I might be okay with having hugs and whatever, but it just depends on how you're going to go about hugging me. And also that reassurance that, oh, okay, I'm not going to go into that boundary line of your personal space, distance between you and I.
Mm-hmm.
So as we know, there is like a circle of the boundaries line. So, got me in the center, then you've got, close proximity where you're hugging me. Then you've got the next one, maybe step back, is just asking. And then the last bit, how I look at it in my circle of the boundary line is, no, I don't want any contact whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, like, it's just knowing the boundary, respecting that if I'm in that mood for that kind of physical closeness between the person and myself, but knowing when to stop as well, you say. And another one is based on trusting that person that I'm talking to, that I may need that physical
Mm-hmm.
touch, you say.
Yeah. Okay, that would be for the list of the symptoms that might be confused. I hope that is more clear now for the audience. And well,
Mm.
right now I will read some that are only for STPD, and I will ask you to shortly comment on that, not point by point, but like a whole. So I have listed traits that are only STPD, and those are confused boundaries between self and others. I can strongly agree on that. Often I am not aware of boundaries I have with strangers, I have with friends, and I often uh, cross the line when it comes to boundaries. Well, distorted self concept. I myself very different, sometimes much more unusual or I don't know, aware of the social rule of the sense of life, and I'm sometimes finding myself much more aware of how the world is working, and this is a very distorted way of thinking of myself. I don't have any internal standards. This goes also with behaving in social situations, and I have hard time to follow manners, for example, or when something is expected from me and what I shouldn't do in the society, and there is no such thing as standard in my opinion. Okay, I have already explained odd or unusual thought process. I may have some references back in my head and I'm going to say it out loud, which made sense for me because I thought of this, but for the person who is speaking me, they don't see this line from one point to another when I'm talking about something, and they don't really understand the connection. When I said one thing and unexpectedly I said another, and in my mind they are connected very well, and for the other person they aren't. Okay, that would be it. Thought content or views of reality. As I said, I might be convinced that I am able to read someone's mind, or that I see the sense of the life, and other people find it bizarre or idiosyncratic. So it is something I experience daily. It also connects to unusual experiences of reality. I have very strong belief in dreams. I have some superstitions I am very careful about, and I am thinking that there are some beings that actually affect my life. I call the person or being, let's say, fate, that is watching me and watches for my mistakes. That, how to put it in several sentences, we are, as Schizotypal, are very convinced that we are spiritually, magically, I don't know, more aware of the metaphysical rules of this world, that we know our fates and we can affect that. We are the magical thinking, the idea that we have superpowers, but not in the superheroes way. We are not flying, we are not shooting lasers from our eyes, but we are very convinced that we have some effect on the physical shape of our lives and on the world. So that would be it. Constrict emotional experience and expression. As I said, I have very difficult problem with controlling my emotions, because at one point I am feeling inside that I am happy and my face stays blank and people are confused why I'm not smiling, and at the other I might start to laugh in an inappropriate situation because I thought of something funny and people were not expected that. Or coldness. I have really big a problem with empathy. At this point, and I worked really hard to reach it, my empathy connects only to animals. I have no empathy towards people. When, for example, something bad happens to my close people, I am very indifferent about it. And I don't know, there was a case when some accident, many people died, I am indifferent about it. But I worked to the point where when I know of some harm that was done to an animal, even if I didn't know this animal, I am able to feel the pain they felt. So I am working on that, and I am very happy I could achieve this level of being able to empathy animals, but I still have to work how to feel for people, but that still takes some time. Point is expectations of signs of impersonal ill intent or harm. As I said, we are very paranoid. It might happen, it might not, but when we are paranoid, we are very convinced that people are intending to harm us, not in a physical way, but mostly our friends are against us, our family is plotting against, wanting something bad for us, etc. Those are very daily ideas of being harmed, and we are very untrusting when it happens. About loyalty and fidelity of others, I just said this connects to paranoia and feelings of persecution. I would agree on that. As I already said, the whole idea of STPD surrounds the feeling of having magical powers to control our life, our luck, our destiny, being paranoid sometimes to people who did mean no harm to us, but for some reason we are convinced that they are, and social anxiety when it comes to explaining ourselves or subjects of speaking and basically acting in society. So those are things that on my list are written that only happens in STPD. Is there something you could relate to of this, what I said?
Again, I want to clearly address that not all autistics are the same when it comes down to the traits versus, signs and symptoms and whatnot, sort of thing. But in saying this, of what you're mentioning in your traits compared to my traits that I've shared with you briefly, knowing our personal boundaries, hearsay, I'm starting to learn that at the moment that there is different, way of life, as I said, of that circle that I illustrated, me in the middle versus, personal space versus basically the person that is that clock's proximity that wants to hug or touch me. And another one in there of yours that you mentioned, like, yes, okay, social anxiety, sometimes I have that fight, flight, fright response. I might want to just withdraw myself from the situation, depending how bad it might be leading up to the stage if I know when my meltdown is about to occur. So therefore, it's about knowing what's triggering me off in that sense of that self-awareness in that given situation, hearsay of where I am in that perspective of it. Some days, yes, I might, avoid people. And it's not like, as I keep saying to people, it's not intentional or whatnot. That just comes down to after having a full day of socialization, I just want a period of break for myself, hearsay, and I just want to basically recharge my batteries and do some self-care on myself so that I am fully ready to go on my next day ahead if it does require me to socialize with the same people or different people depending where I am at that point of time. Again, you mentioned basically on your one paranoia, which again, that's, as I said earlier, that can come into territory for me that they found because of not being aware of what people may be saying and stuff about you. You're thinking, oh my god, what the hell are they thinking about me or whatever. That comes into the territory of how I'm going to act towards them, even if I am really super sensitive to that person. Yes, I'm a super sensitive person in a retrospect of that, and I do have empathy towards people. Despite the past trauma I had of the abuse, I'm starting to come out of my shell a little bit more, trying to bring out more trust capacity with myself, as well as trying to be loyal to others, and hopefully in return people can be it back to me. So it's a bit of give and take in that respect. One is basically knowing this, like reading the signs from people of their body language I may misinterpret some days, or just may, again, in the form of miscommunication, may misinterpret what you guys are saying. So therefore, clarifying what you guys are saying is really important to me. In terms of masking and camouflaging, to touch brief again, that's a give and take of the situation I'm in and the environment. The classic example is the one of if I'm socializing in big crowds and being self-aware when my meltdown is about to come, do I want to suppress it or do I want to fight, flight, fright response? So all these questions will start coming at me. I might at that time start ruminating on those thoughts, how I'm going to act towards that person and whatnot while I've been observing those social behaviors around me. The one I've got here is that is due to obsessions of certain item or interest I said earlier in the piece, based on whatever I may like. I might go on a tangent talking about it, sort of thing, and it might bore the person, and it's just becoming aware now that I'm learning when they're getting bored by hopefully reading their facial expressions and the body language that comes intact. As we know, basically, body language versus the non-verbal language makes up most of the communication as well as the spoken. You say one is based on schedules and routines. I've written down here schedule routines. For me, as I've said in one of my videos, it's to me important that I have some form of schedule or routine to follow by. Doesn't have to be by to the book, even though many people are telling me that, you know, I shouldn't be planning things ahead or what have you. But to me, I'm the kind of person that likes to try and plan goal sets and what have you, that in every given situation, regardless what it may be. He say if I'm like wanting to look into the near future, as I said to myself, trail set for that, you know, and jump through hoops if I can, and finding the right, you know, information slash support kind of thing. Isolation, basically, that can come under like socialization. Sometimes, like, I've touched based on this on my channel based on isolation and feeling excluded to some everyday activities based on my social anxiety and anxiety that tends to hinder me. But then I tend to try and, as again, mask it and try to push on regardless if I do feel socially exhausted and I know my mountain is come on. So then therefore, again, do I want to continue or do I want to withdraw myself? And saying that sometimes with my meltdown, it can lead to a total shutdown. Understand us thinking that okay, we're just picking certain days and dates just to suit us. It's like, you know, even if certain like stages and phases, as I mentioned in like one of my videos of meltdowns, that you know you may have a quiet mild one that you just want to have a quick cry and get on with it. Of those dates that we've had, and too overwhelming. Some of us that are maybe super sensitive. We do record maybe the bad days as well in between of that, the smells around me versus the sounds around me. So therefore, I need to just walk away and recharge. Clumsiness and forgetfulness. Well, to me, I can be a bit clumsy. I've noticed. I do tend to drop a few things here and there. I'm guessing everyone does now and again do tend to get, you know, clumsy. But some days, depending on my moods and just how I'm feeling, with the forgetfulness that comes in a territory, as well as what I've just said briefly before about the savant skill syndrome that comes with autistics. Some autistics can clearly, as clear as day, will be able to recall days, dates, events, and whatever. And some people may, just to give a heads up, as you were saying in your part when on the very first recording of our podcast, is that no matter who and what we are, be it autistic or someone that has a different mental health disorder, that majority of time people should be understanding, empathetic enough, and actually be patient enough.
Yes, I agree.
When certain thing arises, you know, be it if we're having a bad day, just to be there to support us, not just to leave us in the dark, you know, and saying this, that also on our terms, we should be able to self-love ourselves and self-care ourselves when, you know, we have our bad days and know our triggers and causes, and just, you know, get on with our day regardless, hopefully, even if it is a hard day, just knowing if when it is enough for us, to put it frank.
Definitely being patient, and one of the most useful thing is asking questions. When I'm talking something that doesn't make sense for someone and they assume that I am stupid or not able to produce a sentence that makes sense, it is very discouraging. But when they ask me, listen, what did you mean? I don't understand. And I have this chance to actually explain, it's very helping. But as I said, patience and asking questions.
Is there anything that your condition has taught you? If so, what are they?
My condition taught me that, as I wasn't as aware, I was one of those people that believed in
the stigmatized idea of mental illness, that those are scary people and we should be afraid of them. And the condition taught me that this is very untrue. I got into community of people with personality disorders, people with schizophrenia, and I was actually taught that they are just people with some difficulties to live their lives, and that made me more aware of the subject.
Can you explain what it is like living with STPD to the audience?
Sure. Basically, you are a person that has their world. You have your interests. You are very into. You have your unusual behaviors. You might, on my example, I am just right now wearing 2 different socks, and not because I want to look cool, but I just don't care what socks I'm wearing. And
Yeah.
You might have a little problem to communicate with people, but with some work you can actually live a normal life. As I said, I'm married, I am employed in the field I always wanted to. I have friends actually, and well, with professional help you can live almost normal life. And
Yeah.
the life of a STPD is somehow amazing, as I said, for the imagination, because, well, I am an artist. I can draw, I can translate lyrics of the song, I can write a story, I animate something, and I can have amazing dreams during the night. And, well, STPD has many difficulties to live with, but I wouldn't change it in the terms of imagination, which is amazing.
What relationship advice would you like to give to people that are in a relationship that has STPD, or someone that's just wanting to know more?
Well, one thing is very important. Once you get close with the person, close enough that you can trust them, in your opinion, you should tell them that you are ill. That really helps the further contact, because they are aware that you have some difficulties, that you may act in some ways, and they won't be surprised, and they will respect you because they will be aware that some of them might happen, and they will know how to act. I did it with my husband. I told him quite early that, well, I am schizotypal and this means this and that. And, well, he was surprised because he told me that he would never guess that I am ill. But ever since we've been discussing that I might act this and in this way on some situations, and he was already prepared to either ask me questions or just hug me when I'm anxious, etc. Honesty point when you are comfortable with a person to actually tell them. That changes everything.
What would you give to family and friends?
Patience. And, well, when some situation happen, when a schizotypal person get paranoid, for example, and they are untrusting or expecting some bad things to happen from your side, I would discuss it with them, because, well, they are not really controlling their instincts, like let's call it, because it's symptom that just happens. It's not always there, but it might happen. And when, for example, you are my friend and I'm not trusting you because I have an episode, you have to be understanding what is going on with me and not be offended if I, for example, tell you that I won't want to be friends with you anymore because I don't trust you. I will be trusting you again 5 hours later, but at this moment you shouldn't be offended because I am just acting this way. I'm
Okay.
not really able to hold myself from being paranoid at times. And basically understanding, because the more you know about the illness, the more you will be able to support me or any schizotypal person. And as I said, we are amazing people with very interesting interest. With very amazing interest, with awesome personality, but a bit difficult to be friends with. But once you can handle this difficulty, I can say that, well, we are really amazing.
Basically, is there anything you want to add, basically, before we close up the podcast today?
Well, I will say
Tonight, shall we
something.
say?
I'm talking nearly on each video I make. This is the song lyric. There's this wording saying, "They say you are crazy. Well, the best people are." So that's something I wanted to add.
The podcast of the first session between Dee and I. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Smash the like, comment below. Feel free to also subscribe to my channel or Dee's, or pop over to visit her and show your support. Also follow me on my social medias.